Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett, Alderman of the 27th Ward. First of all, I'd like to thank God, and I'd like to thank all of the people who helped me to put this show together. I really appreciate all their help and services. As you all know, Network 27 is a show that we've been doing for over 20 years to try to make sure that people in our community know about the opportunities and resources that are for them, but also to help to expose all of the opportunities and resources that are out there, because a lot of organizations, from what I understand, they get money to run their organizations, but they don't get too much money for marketing. So we want to help them to be known and make sure people know what's in their community and what opportunities and resources there are. So we're in the month of May. So I'm probably talking to you before I get sworn in or after I get sworn in. But whatever the case may be, congratulations to the mayor-elect and or the mayor, depending on what day you watch this, the 2nd or 4th. Congratulations to the mayor. We look forward to working with him and helping to continue to make the city the best city in the United States of America. And also, I just want to thank everyone for giving me another opportunity to serve you. It's an honor, and I really appreciate it. As you all know, first and foremost, I try to take care of our ward. That's important. But at the same time, and after being around for a while, you get a keen sense of trying to do things for the rest of the city, because we're all in this together. The longer you're around, the more you learn that we're all in this together. We're not just in one little corner. Or one little ward. We're all a part of the city of Chicago. So I look forward to helping our city to become a better place. I think the month of May, pretty soon, they're going to be doing the summer jobs. A lot of young people need to make sure they get signed up or find out from your counselors in your schools. Get signed up in your schools. Those who are not in public schools, you probably can go to the public library, sign up for the summer jobs, and we have a certain amount of summer jobs that's going to come anyway, but from what I understand, this new administration is looking to do more, so we need folks to sign up. Also, if I'm not mistaken, there may be opportunities for businesses to take in young people and allow them to be able to work for them in the summer. We have to, just like the young people who come downtown need to recognize that downtown is part of them. We need to recognize that those young people are part of us also. So we need to give them an opportunity to work and experience the sense of being downtown and experience the opportunities to be able to go to the stores downtown and have a little more respect for them. So this would be a great opportunity to connect the dots. I'm gonna get off of my sound box here. So let me introduce our guests. So we have a department in the county called the Public Defender's Office. Most folks know about it. Most folks don't. You don't hear too much about them. Generally, when you see things on the news, they're always talking about a lawyer or they're talking about the state's attorney. You'll never hear them talking about the public defenders, man. But but there is a entity in the county that help people who cannot afford a lawyer. And that's the Public Defender's Office, and they're doing a lot of great things. So I want us to know who they are and what they have going on. So with us today, we have Melinda Rosales. She's the Assistant Public Defender for Juvenile Justice. Yes. Thank you very much for coming on. We have Scott Finger. Scott is the Public Defender Arrest Hotline person. You're not the Arrest Hotline, but you're the person, right? No, okay, because we don't want to tell people, call Scott.
No, I'm a lawyer
okay.
with the Arrest Hotline.
Okay. And then we have Emmanuel Andre, Deputy for Policy and Strategic Litigation with the Public Defender's Office. Well, thank you all very much for coming on. First of all, why don't you all let folks know what part of Chicago you live in?
Okay. I am on the northwest side of the city, still in Chicago, but near Norridge and Oak Park. And I have lived over there for about 15 years now. I've been in the city for about 20, and I have been with the Public Defender's Office for 20 years.
Fantastic. Thank you.
My wife and I and our kids lived in Logan Square for about 10 years, and we've recently moved up to the northern suburbs.
Okay, fantastic.
Emmanuel, first of all, thank you again for having us,
No
and
problem.
congratulations on your reelection. I'm from the far north side. Some like to affectionately call it the North Pole, but it's
Okay.
Rogers Park, actually.
All right,
But a huge fan of the West Side and the 27th
fantastic.
Ward.
So, Andre, are you African?
No, I'm actually Haitian.
You're Haitian,
so I was,
what,
yeah,
Haitian?
so I was born in Haiti and raised in Harlem, New York. So it's
Okay.
a little further east than the north side, but.
All right, all right. So, because up in Rogers Park, there are a lot of Africans that live up there, right? A lot of people from Africa stay up there, right?
Yeah, there are. There's a good amount of Africans. Just a good amount of. There's a good immigrant population, actually.
Very diverse.
Very, very
Africans,
diverse.
Asians, yeah.
Asians, Ethiopians. So it's really diverse in Rogers Park. And that was one of the reasons that really attracted me, sort of to that area. A decent amount of Haitians too. But yeah, but I like it out there. Although I can't get as good soul food up in Rogers Park as I've gotten on the west side.
Okay, all right, all right. Well, we appreciate that plug for the West Side. Well, thank you all very much for coming on. So, Melinda, seeing what happened, when May now, but last month with the young people down and in the downtown area, and some of them doing those things that they do. Some of those kids, probably several kids got arrested. Some of those young people probably would be coming before the courts and probably be coming to the public defender's office. Can you tell us what do the juvenile part of the public defender's office do, and how does it work? A lot of people only learn about the public defenders if they get in trouble.
Yes.
So can you explain it?
And can I give you just a little bit of background
Sure.
on the Public Defender's Office?
Sure.
Okay, so the Cook County Public Defender's Office has been around for about 90 years. And as you indicated, it is for individuals who cannot afford to hire their own attorney. If you are what is referred to in the court system as indigent, then the court will appoint an attorney for you. And so I think sometimes there is a confusion in the community that you can just call the public defender's office and get an attorney. And while we would absolutely love to be able to do that, unfortunately the law clearly states that we must be appointed by a judge.
Okay.
So I think, again, in the community, there's a misperception that, I didn't get to talk to my public defender until I was in court. Well, that's because your public defender was not appointed until you were in court, because that is how it is set up. So going specifically to juveniles, when they are arrested, they have to be brought before a court within a certain amount of time to hear the initial charges. If there is a finding of probable cause, we are appointed at that point when they're referred to court, and then we follow the case all the way through what would be an arraignment, all the way through to a disposition of the case, which could be a multitude of things.
Fantastic.
Yes.
So how do the juvenile public defender distinguish itself from the regular public defenders? You all had to do something different than them?
In the juvenile division, we are only dealing with minors between the ages of 10 and 18, 17. Once you hit the age of 18, then you are charged in the adult criminal system. So, and we specify the law is different for juveniles. As an example, as an adult, if you demand trial, you have 120 days that the state has to bring you to trial. For juveniles, if you demand trial, you have to be ready in 30 days.
Wow.
And it is because the history of juveniles and juveniles being held in custody especially is that the longer that a minor is in custody, the more detrimental it is to them. And so the juvenile cases will move faster than perhaps an adult case because of those different timelines.
If I could add something really quick too, just right on, it's also just acknowledging that children are different, and the specialty that it takes to represent a child is different, excuse me, than an adult. There's brain development. There's even the way you're able to interact and be able to communicate with that child. And I think sometimes we overlook it, and it's very easy, unless you're that parent or that loved one that has that child in that space. You know, when we use terms like juveniles and everything else like that, no, they're children, and they're different, and it takes specialized, you know, just like kids go to see different doctors, right? That's acknowledging that there's specialists who's done that work. In our office, you know, we have most of those specialists. So,
well, and we go to trainings. We have to continue our training on a yearly basis. So juvenile attorneys will go, as Mr. Andre said, to specific trainings that deal with the issues around juveniles, especially brain development and cognitive ability. I mean, there are so many studies out there showing that minors up until the age of 21, 25 still, you know, are developing their brains, their consequential thinking. It's one of the reasons that juvenile courts were created, because we cannot treat kids the way that we treat adults.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting stuff. So I know that, you know, and a lot of people may not understand, but a lot of the laws starts in Springfield, right? A lot of the things that you all can and can't do, and how to defend or whatever the case may be, come from Springfield. Because I know it used to be up to 17, right? And then they
Correct.
changed that. So juveniles used to be what, 17? Below 17.
Yeah, you could be charged as an adult at 17.
At 17.
Yes, and we were one of the last counties to get rid of that.
Okay, and around the country now we're on par with everyone?
Correct.
Around the country, so it's 18.
Yes.
Right, even though you still think that young people's brains aren't developed up until about 25.
Well, and just so juvenile jurisdiction can extend until 21. So even if you become involved with the court system at, let's say, 16, 17, you could still be involved with the juvenile system up until 21.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
no, you brought up a great point, though. You said, well, even though the brain development research says you're not there until 25, 26, you know, our court has not caught up to that. There are some, nationally, we are seeing some people push to look at emerging adults very differently, you know, between those 18 to 25 to 26-year-olds very differently. You know, we're not quite there yet. I do think Illinois was a leader. I mean, we were the first one to have court for just children. So we've been a leader in that context, but there's still a ton of work left to happen. We still do have laws like automatic transfer laws where, unfortunately, you know, some children can be treated as adults that are 15, 16 based on the type of crime that they've been accused of, that alone, right? So although the research says one thing, but we're still in this weird space to say, well, if you're accused of a certain crime, then there's a avenue to be able to treat you as an adult right away.
So Melinda, there's a thought out here that a lot of people use youth, use young people, juveniles, to do things, right? To do crimes because they feel like a young person to get out of it and the old person won't. The older person will go to jail, but the young people can get away with it and just get a slap on the hand and go home.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is a common misperception in the community, that a juvenile is not going to face any kind of serious consequence, or a minor, someone under 21, won't face a serious consequence. But as Mr. Andre just brought up, you could be 15 or 16 years old and charged with a criminal offense and then also get an adult sentence.
Really?
And what that means is that if, as a minor, you make any mistake, and what child has not made a mistake, that could trigger you being sentenced as an adult for something that you did when you were 15. If you're not perfect all the way up until perhaps a probation ends. And that, again, I would say is not in line with the information that we have about kids, their maturity, their brain development, all of those things. We're still, unfortunately, treating kids a little bit more like adults instead of treating them like kids.
But a lot of kids don't know that.
They don't.
A lot of kids think that they, that they got a pass, right? I mean, and you hear it from kids. They just think that they, if they did something, nothing much going to happen to them. They may get probation or they may have to go to a program, but that's about it.
And so what they don't know is that even with that juvenile adjudication or that juvenile finding at 15 years old, that could follow you well into adulthood. And so it is going to affect you, especially if you're going to apply for any type of government job, or somebody wants to become an alderman and they got arrested at 15 years old. And now that is still following them through and prohibiting them from being able to maybe do the things that they want to do as adults.
So one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I probably still should work on this more, but I think it's beneficial to everyone if they knew what the penalties were for doing things, right? And I look at that, it's like you kind of be proactive in preventing people from doing stuff, because so that they can know, I don't think everybody, generally what kids do, they get locked up, right? And they get around other kids, and you have like 100 jailhouse lawyers in the cell with them, right? And these guys being
adults
there,
too.
And adults, right?
Adults too.
And they being there, yeah, man, that judge there, she'll do this or do that, or you ain't gonna get nothing but this or that and this and that, that's what goes on, right? And a lot of these kids believe that stuff, and then they take that stuff back out in the streets. And these other young people start believing that, and they feel like they can get a pass on things. And I think we need to be more proactive to let young people know that if you do this, like everybody right now carjacking, unfortunately is becoming a norm in our society. And I think a lot of these young people feel like that nothing will happen to them. And, as an African-American guy, in the African-American community, not to be ethnic about it, but in the African-American community, guys care about their cars more than they care about their girls in some instances, right?
Well, the Hispanic community is not much different. Yes.
So if you take the wrong person's car, you can get hurt, right? So anyway.
Well,
I do think some of the stuff that you said, speaks in terms of like the values and what does that look like, what values have been passed down. But you also said something I think that was critically important in the beginning when you said, well, a young person is being sent off to do these things. And to your point, they don't know. And part of the not knowing, part of the challenge is here, well, you're 14, 15, and we do tons of know your rights and education law stuff. We do tons of that. But the reality is still you're 14, 15, your ability to understand that is very different than Emmanuel Andre sitting here. But I do think one real opportunity we do have is in the area of, well, how do we continue to engage young people? I mean, we started off by you talking about youth and some of jobs and the importance of that. So what we do know is a young person who's not engaged, leave space for them to be engaged by someone else. So I think that's absolutely critically important. But if someone does get into any trouble or anything like that, I know we have a phenomenal service, one of a kind actually in the country, that the Public Defender's Office offer up. And I don't know, Scott, if you want to talk about the Arrest Hotline.
One of the essential services that our office provides is what we call the Arrest Hotline. And we have a police station unit staffed by lawyers 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And anybody can call that number, 844. And we got the bracelets right here. It's 844-81-RIGHT, RIGHT. And you can call that number and you'll get a free lawyer at the police station if somebody gets into trouble. And that is crucial at a time.
So would it be a public defender?
It is.
Yep, it'll be a lawyer from the public
So,
defender's
so
office.
you get the public defender before the judge appoints a
Right.
public defender.
So what happened was,
Good catch. Go ahead.
back in the 90s, a need arose that was born out of allegations of police coercion and sometimes physical abuse of people that were in police custody. And it became important that somebody get a lawyer at the police station at that critical time when somebody's just been arrested to help them protect their constitutional rights. So an organization called First Defense Legal Aid started up, and they actually started the Arrest Hotline. And they, I think from 1995 or 96, they ran that hotline. And then in 2016, Chief Judge Evans issued an order saying that if somebody's in police custody and they call this number, the public defender is appointed. Like Melinda said before, normally you can't get the public defender, a lawyer from the public defender's office, until you're in court and the judge appoints that lawyer to you. Now, with that order, we are able to provide this service. And like I said, 24/7, 365, you call that number and somebody's going to come down and represent you. They're going to make sure that you know what the process is, because it's bewildering. Not everybody's been arrested. I mean, most people haven't been arrested. Most people haven't been in police custody. So to have somebody there who can tell you what that process is going to be, what your constitutional rights are at that point, and how to use those rights, how to invoke them, your right to silence, your right to have a lawyer present if you're questioned by the police, it's crucial. And it's, we get a lot of calls, but we'd like to see more. We want to get this number out there, and it's particularly for kids.
And that's what I would have
Huge service.
for the kids. It has been just phenomenal, because it is unfortunate that when dealing with minors, they are placed in situations where their rights are being violated at a police station. And previous, there was not anything that we could do because, like I said, we had to wait till court. The Cook County Judge Evans giving us this extra little bit of authority has, I think, been instrumental to kids in Cook County.
And it's, when you look at it from the historical context, right, it helps in the sense of this has been a huge black eye counties all over the country. Imagine a child sitting there not knowing what to do. They call a parent. Parents don't know because...
Imagine that it's your child.
Yeah, more importantly, imagine it's your child is sitting there. They call you, as Scott said, they call you out of work. You rush down there. You don't know what's happening as the parent. And you just say, baby, just tell them what they want to hear, and so we can go home. And then that child now says something that's completely untrue, not supported by anything else. And I know it sounds like just a wild example, but no, that's Central Park, Jogger 5. I know I'm bringing up New York, but even within Chicago,
Yes.
It's cost the city countless amount of millions of dollars. But it's not about the money, but it's more about the impact that has on a community in terms of losing trust to those who are put in positions to help. And I think services like this helps with that trust and helps people better, to your point, helps people know, not just the child, but the parents. So if you're a parent out there listening to this, please keep that number. If you have a loved one, please call right away if anything else, if anything were to happen.
And that number is, again, 844-81-RIGHT.
Yeah, it's 817-4448.
So it's 844-81
74448.
Okay.
It doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
That's
But,
great.
I mean, the sad fact, and it's not completely understood, but I mean, I think we know why, but people do, in police custody, confess to things that they didn't do. And
Out of fear.
Part of that, out of fear, out of not knowing what's going on, out of the skills of the police and extracting confessions. So you can see from people that have been
it seems
exonerated.
like it should just be automatic that you arrest somebody. If they don't have representation, you call the public defender to represent them. Why don't we have an automatic law in place where the police just, before they talk, especially a minor, before you talk to a minor, they have to have some type of representation. I don't get that. Is there not a law in place with that?
Well, for minors, there is. So
There is.
We do get calls from detectives, probably not all of them, but we get calls for when detectives they've taken a kid into custody. They have to have a lawyer there, so we will get calls from detectives.
But
Bring them in, but I guarantee you, it's not every case where they brought a kid in. So not every detective's doing it.
well, and this is because of
Yeah, that's
previous
new.
things that have happened and laws, cases that have gone all the way through the system that have said, no, you cannot take a minor into custody and not call their parent. No, you cannot question a minor for hours without letting their guardian know where they are. So it is because of the mistreatment of kids that these things have had to be put into place. They're safeguards for the children in our community.
But not just minors. I mean,
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Adults
people,
as well.
Just people, period. I mean, you all going to end up getting them on the back end. Why can't you get them on the front end?
Right. So when
Why,
Chief
why can't it be automatic on the front end?
Alderman, if you put that forward
Yeah.
in Springfield, we will support that wholeheartedly.
Is that right?
I mean, it's got to come from Springfield.
Yes.
Yeah, and
And a lot of people don't know that.
yeah,
A lot of people don't know all of the laws and the rules are in Springfield. They think they think the aldermen do it half the time,
Well-
but it's not even us.
And sometimes people think that we can pick and choose who we represent, and we cannot.
And a lot of times, you know, we're talking about children, right? But we represent a good amount of people who are survivors of violence, survivors of crime, people who have all sorts of mental wellness issues. So those are the stories that go untold, unfortunately, too many times when we think about the work we do. So if I'm somebody who have cognitive delays, even myself being in a police station, right, it's very different. It's very different. You know, my understanding of, okay, what does it mean when they're reading me my Miranda rights? What in the world does that mean? You know, I can't understand it. You're asking me to sign something I can't even read. So there are tons of examples like that happens day in and day out. So that's why I love your idea of automatic.
And that's what our office does. Is a lawyer will come to the station and sit with you and explain to you, these are your Miranda rights. Everybody has heard them on TV and the movies. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law, and you have a right to have a lawyer present if you question. We can sit and we can explain it to you and explain to you why it's important to use those rights and to help you invoke those rights. And you know, you said, why isn't this automatic? And part of the order that Chief Judge Evans signed said that this number is supposed to be posted in all the police stations for people that are in custody. And that it was happening and sometimes it wasn't. And so last fall, there's a consent decree signed where now this number is going to be in all the police stations. It'll be in 9 different languages in every place where somebody's detained. It'll be on the wall that you can get a free lawyer, and we're going to hopefully be able to make sure that they're complying with that now. Because it's crucial.
And it's unfortunate that our office, and we have to fight these battles just to get out what people's constitutional rights are. I mean, like you said, it should not be so hard.
Okay. So we need to talk to some state reps and the Cook County president. I'm sure she would be very supportive of something like that. Probably the chief judge too. But he can't. But can he get? He can't give the order that is automatic, though, can he?
He did
That
issue this order to allow us to provide this service.
Yeah.
But it
has to come from
much
Springfield.
better if it's codified in the law,
Yes.
coming from Springfield.
Okay. So I talked to some state rep I'm close to. See what I can do. Mr. Andre, so we've on a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
You, I, and your boss, right? And give us the public defender's name.
Sharon Mitchell.
Sharon Mitchell. And Sharon been around for how long?
Well, he's 2 years now into his term. We're lucky enough, he has another 4 years left.
Okay. So the public defenders are appointed?
Yes, they're appointed by
Not the public defenders. The public defender.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The public defender is appointed, right?
Yes, the public defender is actually an appointed position. I think in many ways, we're incredibly lucky to have Mr. Mitchell in this position. I myself, so I'm one of the lawyers you talked about before. So public defenders, we're all lawyers. We're all lawyers, but there's private attorneys doing this work out day to day. And one of the reasons I was so excited to come to the public defender's office, believe it or not, is in part because of the vision of this administration and what is brought already. So in terms of what we're doing, so normally people say, well, the public defender's office, you're only in the courts representing people accused of crimes. So we're doing a lot more. First of all, it's almost 700 employees, and it's not just brilliant attorneys, it is brilliant investigators, social workers, mitigators. So this concept of you really have a team of people doing stuff. You just heard about all the great work that's happening in our juvenile courts and also the Arrest Hotline. There's other phases of things that we're doing. We're launching off these this idea of these community defense centers, which is going to be really the first of its kind in the nation.
So tell us about that.
Sure. So the idea there is where the office is working directly with community, collaborating with community members to develop an office, a local office. One, we're going to be developing one in the South Side, one in Roseland, and also one on the West Side, in a part of the West Side near you. So if you have any ideas on where in the West Side that should be, we're open to listening.
Right.
But the idea, though, that development is done in collaboration with community members to think about, number one, really 3 key points. This idea of access, the idea of community having access to the attorneys. Because right now, most of our offices, unfortunately, are directly related to the courtroom. So we're usually based out of the courtrooms. Now, that's great for us as attorneys because we're always in the courtrooms. But for a lot of people, that could be intimidating. I might not want to go to see my attorney on a Friday afternoon if it means I have to go to a courtroom, right? Versus walking down in my neighborhood, in my block, to be able to see the attorney. So that's really important. Also, this idea of autonomy. So you have access, and also this idea of autonomy, where where people have more say-so to be able to help partner with the public defender's office and be able to do this work. And we think that's always critically important. So I mean, those are some of the things that we're doing. I mean, we're really excited about this idea in terms of being able to collaborate with people in real time and building this out. And part of it is not necessarily just us as attorneys doing this work, but taking advantage of, if you think about like a community center, this is almost like a service center, where we're able to leverage services of other community members, whether that's mental health services, employment services, violence prevention services. We're able to leverage all of that in the work we do. Because part of it is this taking this more broad landscape approach of saying, wait a minute, a lot of the people that we're representing are survivors of some serious violence, and we need to do something about it. And it's not just that. As I mentioned before, we also do family defense, where we're trying to keep families unified. So the work is very broad, and it's really exciting times in terms of what we're doing there. So that's on the community defense side. We've also been doing lots of work within problem-solving courts, where you have mental health court, veterans treatment court, drug court. So the landscape is huge, and we're trying to build out, and more importantly, we need help. We need to be able to work more with community members to be able to make this happen.
So I would imagine that you work with a lot of the assistant agencies, like, is it TAF? And Task. And different organizations like that to help people who may be addicted to drugs, and probably some of the homeless organizations dealing with the homeless people, because a lot of people come to jail because they're homeless and have challenges, mental challenges, right?
Yes.
And so y'all work with a lot of mental assistant organizations.
I would say that we do. It is.
No, that's fine. We do. We're not there yet. We're not where we want to be.
Okay.
So that's an area. That's a real area for growth for us, right?
Okay.
So that's the more communal mindset that we're taking to be able to say, wow, partnering with these organizations is actually critical, and it's actually, to be very frank with you, it's a public safety matter.
Without a doubt. So there's I'm gonna let you go while you got your thought together, because I know.
No.
I know how it is.
It's already gone.
I can be thinking about something, and then it's like I said, I got to go upstairs and get my hat, and I'll be like, why did I come upstairs? But anyway, So when you remember it, let me know.
Yes.
Okay, get it out. So, well, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett. I want to thank my guests for being here from the Public Defender's Office. So, coincidentally, you speaking about the West Side office. As you know, I introduced an ordinance in City Council, and I've been working with the current mayor, depending on what day we're talking on, or the former mayor, Lightfoot, on having a returning residence office in City Hall, right? So we have a returning residence office in City Hall. We have an employee there for returning residents. We put this together with a whole bunch of returning resident support organizations. We came up with some of the policy. So we just changed some policy. So one of the things that we encourage with that is to have a one-stop shop for returning residents when they come home, right? So, you know, for housing, for jobs, for, you know, bus fare, for, you know, whatever they need. And so I had to challenge them because they didn't have an office on the West Side, right? So I challenged them on putting an office on the West Side. So they're looking for an office on the West Side. So I'm saying all of that to say that you may want to connect with them, connect with Willette Brentford, and maybe that's something that we can do together. You understand what I'm saying? So that way, I think it'd just be natural. It'd be a natural thing with you being there, people who come home being there, people who need your help get to see all of the resources that are there also. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, like I say, even with just regular community organizations, right? Everybody get money for just to basically run their office, but they never get money to market. And I literally have people come in my office asking for a GED program and don't know it's one down the block from them. You know what I'm saying? And been down the block from them their whole life, right? Which is crazy.
It's the same with this
Yes.
hotline.
So I think the one-stop shopping thing is something. I mean, you fall right in line with juvenile justice, criminal justice, all of those things that this office is trying to do to help people get on the right track. Well, all of those other organizations around the state, around the city, that's doing it also, because there's a lot of organizations out here, quiet as it's kept, that a lot of people don't know about, that's doing a lot to help people get back on track, but also trying to help people prevent from getting in trouble too, right? So maybe we can connect you all, and I'm not sure if they got the office yet. So it's coming between the mayor's office of returning residents, but also in coordination with the Department of Family and Supportive Services. So they both working together. So maybe, you know, you can, you know, y'all can share the rent, or, you know what I'm saying? It can be some money saved.
Yes.
You feel me? You know, both government agencies, we can save some money.
And we would love that. We would love
Maybe
that.
in a government building, who knows, right?
No, we would love that. And you know, in addition to sort of the shared, and even with this concept of one stop, it's that relationship. It's us acknowledging this work is not necessarily transactional, because when that young person goes through the courts, no matter what happens, there's been an impact. There's been a lifelong impact. They haven't been in school, they haven't been whatever. You know, jobs now is a serious issue, right? Now they need to go to find a place to get that GED.
That's
because
right.
They spent X amount of times, you know, fighting this, and not to mention just the trauma of going through systems like that. So it's us being able to acknowledge, to your point, it's about the relationships and not necessarily the transaction of this space does this space does that, and then that's it.
So tell me this. So I know you say you all have a number of public defenders. I don't know how staffed you are. Are you fully staffed? Are you not fully staffed? I know that from time to time, people have challenges. So one of the things I want to say, first of all, thank you all for your public service.
Thank you.
I know with your degrees and all the money you paid for to go to school, you're still paying for, right?
Those loans.
Right? I know that you probably could be making a lot of money somewhere else, a lot more money, I should say, somewhere else as a lawyer, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But you decided to commit to do public service. And I know sometimes, even with the state's attorney's office, sometimes it's challenging for you all to have a long bench because a lot of people want to go and make the big money, right? And nobody want to come here and not make as much money or and do this. And so when I commend you all, and I know right now, because a lot of law firms been laying off, you're probably getting more people to work for you. So, you know, it's like a shift in the economy almost, right? But how are you right now with your bench? Is your bench full, or do you have openings?
Well, we have openings.
Okay.
We have openings, and we can definitely use more help. You know,
Okay.
we've been incredibly lucky, I think, in terms of the staffing that we do have, and in terms of the support that we've been getting. But when you think about this work, and when you think about trying to do this work in a transformational way, you know, we can certainly use the bench, because that was, you know, again, I had the privilege of being in private practice, but one of the biggest differences, you know, I got to control the amount of people I represent, and it's just fundamentally unfair. And we are all brilliant attorneys, but when you have heavy caseloads, that there's a burden there that makes it incredibly difficult to be able to do the work and to be able to do the proper public service that it deserves. I mean, this work is just simply too important to not have that full bench that you talked about.
So just like with the great organization Cabrini Green Legal Aid, right? Cabrini Green Legal Aid is basically based off of volunteerism, right? A lot of lawyers volunteer, a lot of law firms do their charitable work by working with Cabrini Green Legal Aid, which is fantastic, right? Do you all have an arm where lawyers, if they wanted to, can volunteer with you all? Like, let's say they establish law firms, and they like their lawyers to give back, right? And do y'all have that opportunity with the public defender's office for volunteers? Y'all don't have volunteers?
Well, I mean, we have volunteers like law students, interns, those types of volunteers. But and our attorneys volunteer in all kinds of other areas of the community. But I don't think that we are a law firm, so it doesn't really allow for other attorneys to just volunteer with our office. But we do get all kinds of different volunteers. Yes.
Okay.
And I just wanted to mention quickly too, when you were talking about our office and how large our office is, with not just attorneys, but again, we do have over 400 attorneys. I think that another thing that the community does not know is that a lot of our attorneys come to this work, like you said, knowing that we're not going to make a lot of money, that we are going to be underappreciated, sometimes even by our own clients, oftentimes by the court, but it is our backgrounds, our personal experiences, and our desire to represent this section of our community that brings attorneys to the public defender's office. At least I can say that that is my experience. I lived in many different states in this country growing up, predominantly minority neighborhoods, and saw and experienced a lot of prejudice, racism, all kinds of things, and had my own family members go through the legal system and saw what can happen if you don't have people who are dedicated to public service, dedicated to doing the type of work that we do. And those are the kinds of attorneys that we have in our office.
Fantastic. And so just so people don't think that this is just about juveniles, because it's not.
Not at all.
No.
Right? You guys help people over 100 years old, right? No matter how old they are. And it's basically for people who do not or cannot afford a private attorney,
That's it.
right?
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I did adult work for 10 years with our office, with the public defender's office. And as you mentioned earlier, unfortunately, a lot of the people in the criminal justice system are dealing with mental health issues. They're dealing with substance abuse issues. We have veterans even more now that are becoming involved in the criminal justice system. And our office is trying to put programs and resources in place that can address the needs of these different people coming into the criminal justice system, because just sending everybody to jail or prison is not going to help the community.
Mm-hmm. So tell me this, so one of the unique things about you guys, right? You get to correspond, right, with your clients. And you know, like I'm just thinking about the juveniles. You kind of get to feel some of the trends that's happening with them, or some of the reasoning that they have for doing making some of the mistakes that they make. You know, like right now, we look at how, you know, social media has changed things so much. I mean, it's so fast. It's like, you know, if you was to have a party back when we was growing up.
You wouldn't want any cameras.
Well, you wouldn't want any cameras, but also at the same time, it'd be hard for you to let everybody know.
Yeah.
Right?
You had to pick up the phone.
You had to pick up the phone, and it'd be hard.
You had to ride your bike over to someone's house.
That's right. Hope that they tell somebody else.
Yep.
Right? It'd be hard to get people there. Now they say, 5 minutes, we all gonna meet up on Madison Street.
Right.
People come from all over the city.
Yeah.
Just off of Facebook, and bam, they all there. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it is a different situation nowadays with these young people. Like I always say, these kids just love to be seen.
Yeah.
We have the social media has made it where everybody want to be a star. You know, sometimes I just see kids walking down the street.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they think they like real movie stars, right? And they putting it on Snapchat and Twitter and, you know, and Facebook and all of those things, and they just want to be seen, want to be recognized, but they don't understand. And I'm sure you all see this all the time, that stuff is being seen by other folks, right? It's like the police see a lot of that stuff. You know, all these guys be on TV with guns.
All too often.
We're
seeing these
bragging about who they hit, what they gonna do. You know, and, you know, I work with the police, and you know, they get word early that it's getting ready to be a fight at a school, right? Because they be on social media and they say
monitor.
it.
They monitor it all.
And some of it though is, all right, how do we respond to that, right? So we know the landscape has changed. Social media is there. If we know that, all right, there's going to be a fight at a school at a certain time, like just sort of how do we respond in terms of trying to prevent that and trying to invest in that? I mean, it's what you said about being seen. It's an African proverb that goes, you know, the child that feels left out, you know, of the village will burn it down to feel its warmth.
Wow, that's deep.
To feel its warmth.
Yeah.
Deep.
But literally to feel its warmth, because now you're getting that attention, now you're being seen, and now everything else. So even us, it makes us think about from a public safety lens, okay, we know this is happening on social media. Like, how are police partnering with service providers to be able to respond, and not just from this lens that, you know, that's only going to lead to incarceration and just the circle of that. So I don't know. I think that's sometimes extremely critical to think about.
Yeah,
And
and I'm
juveniles,
sure you all hear from the young. I'm sure we got about 10 minutes, guys. but I'm sure you hear from the young people, and some of their reasoning probably don't make sense to us, but they'll tell you straight up why they did stuff.
Well,
right?
and I was discussing this with someone in my office just earlier this morning about how sometimes maybe as adults we have forgotten what it is like to be teenagers, and we have forgotten the just how important everything is at 15 and 16, and how deeply you feel everything, and like you said, add social media to that, and now they're having all of those feelings on social media. But we recently met with some kids in the community, you know, to our division, to talk to them, and some of the things that we're hearing is that they don't feel like there's spaces for them either in their community or in the city. You know, they want places where they can gather, especially after 3 years of being shut up inside and, you know, being restricted in their movement. We need to give the kids in our city, as well as the adults in our city, spaces that they can move through instead of trying to limit them in where they can be.
Yeah, we even had this challenge in some places on the west and the south side. You know, people don't want nightclubs, bars. So older people who want to just go out and dance, you know, really don't have nowhere to go. You know, our society is changing so much. And then you get challenged when you go downtown. You think about the kids right now being frowned upon. Right now, there are adults right now in some parts of downtown. Some of the bar owners get told that we don't want no urban, we don't want an urban crowd here. You know, urban crowd. And some bars downtown, you know, so it's you know, everybody got to feel welcome, right? But at the same time, everybody got to understand that we don't destroy things that are there for us. We need to enhance it and enjoy it. And so somehow we have to figure out how to get the young people to understand that. And that's what I said, by them being involved in the community.
To your proverb, when they feel involved in the community, then they don't feel a need to destroy but when they feel that that's the only way that they can get the attention,
that's right.
Then that's what happens.
And you know, crazy thing is, I look at all those kids that was downtown running around. A lot of them can't run around like that in their own neighborhood, right? Because of different gang territories and the other. It's safer to do things downtown, but they wouldn't. That's why you don't see those big crowds in the neighborhood, right? Because it's risky for them to be running around like that.
And it's unfortunate.
In the neighborhood, it is unfortunate.
It is risky for the kids in our community to not feel safe in their own neighborhood.
That's right. That's right. So we got a lot of work to do, but. Do you all have anything going up before we get off? We got about a couple of minutes. You got something you want to announce? We're in the month of May. Anything coming up in April, May, June?
The summer, I would say, look for the expungement fair. There is always expungement fairs going on during the summer. So if you have had an arrest or anything in your background and you want to see if you can have that removed, you can start at the clerk's office. And usually in June or July, they have an expungement fair. If you are in any way involved with the juvenile court system or the court system, summer programs are coming up, One Summer Chicago and different things like that. So I would encourage kids to get out there and fill out those applications, increase the peace and other options that are out there for the summer. Yes.
And every day.
Every day.
Every day, if somebody's in trouble, if you're in trouble, if you're being asked to come in for questioning by the police or have been arrested or somebody you know has been arrested, call this number, 844-817-4448 to get a free lawyer.
Fantastic.
Yeah, two things in addition to that. So we're always doing Know Your Rights education stuff, education programming. So if you work at a school or adult center, wherever, if you're interested in having us come out, please reach out to us and we'll make that happen. Something else, actually, May 16th. One of the things we did not get a chance to talk about is we have an immigration division within our office where we represent the rights of those who are facing deportation in immigration courts because of their criminal background, criminal convictions.
Wow.
So we're celebrating that work that we've been doing over the last 2 years, and that's going to happen on May 16th. So that's really exciting.
Fantastic. So if people want to know more about your office, is there a website? What do they do?
Yes, we have a new, well, not a new website, but it's an updated website and all kinds of information online.
So you can just find that by going on Google and asking for the Public Defender's Office?
Cook County Public Defender's Office.
Okay, fantastic. And so I want to thank Melinda Rosales, the Assistant Public Defender for Juvenile Justice. I also want to thank Scott Finger, the Assistant Public Defender, Arrest Hotline. The hotline number is if you want a free attorney, as soon as you're arrested, you can call them and you can get an attorney while you're in the police station. Right. And also we want to thank Emmanuel Andre, Deputy for Policy and Strategic Litigation for the Public Defender's Office. I want to thank you guys very much. I didn't have an opportunity to ask you all how is it working with the state's attorney's office? And I'm sure that's probably a whole show right
We
there.
can come back.
And then how is it working with some of the judges? But anyway,
Do a series.
we want to thank you guys very much for coming on. Really appreciate it. Please tell the public defender I said thank you. And we appreciate everything that you all do to help people to get justice and be served correctly while they're going through their challenges. So we like to thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Again, we want to thank everyone who helped us to put the show together. We look forward for this to be a great new 4 years with our new mayor, with all of the new aldermen. I see some great things happening in the city of Chicago. Coincidentally, before we go off, the city is working on a new central area plan. That plan is with We Chicago, and it's talking about the downtown area and how we have to compete to bring resources downtown with other cities throughout the country. This would be a great opportunity for young people to get involved and understand the dynamics of our economy and why and how things work in the city of Chicago, and what the adults be thinking about when they be thinking about certain things, tourism and all of that stuff, and why they think about that, but also with transportation opportunities. So, and figure out where the dollars come from, right? And how the money get here. And so we all get to understand how everything is related all over the city, how all these areas help all the other areas. We're all in this together. We're one city, one Chicago. Again, kids, get involved. Look out for that. That should be coming up this month, actually. And there's going to be opportunities to get on websites, webinars, and be able to get involved and give your input on how we should enhance the central area and make it better, and how it connects with the neighborhoods. Thank you all for watching Network 27. I'm Alderman Walter Burnett. God bless you all. Until next time, thank you.